Hi, everyone. Self love, safety, and returning to yourself when the validation isn't coming from within. Let's get into this. This month, we've been exploring fantasies and obsessions. We talked about, limerence, maladaptive daydreaming, dissociation. Then we talked about the obsession with being loved and being chosen and outsourcing our worth. And then we talked about the obsession with romantic relationships. What happens when we look outside ourselves for worth, safety, and validation. And today we bring the focus back inward. Today we're gonna talk about the self-love and what it's all about. So, what we mean by self-love, it is not perfection. It is not constant confidence because that's not even possible. It's not I love myself affirmations. Self love is feeling safe inside your own life, knowing your lacks, being comfortable with the fact that you have imperfections, trusting your own voice and not needing constant external validation to feel okay. And what it can feel like without it. When self love is missing, we may feel easily destabilized because the worth is outsourced, validation is outsourced, unsure of our worth, dependent on reassurance, afraid of being alone, constantly scanning for approval. Internal validation. If validation doesn't live inside, we search for it outside. We search for it through relationships, attention, and sometimes it can be negative attention. Sometimes it can be very unsafe attention and being chosen, being needed, being admired. Safety and trust in self. Without internal safety, we look for someone else to stabilize it. We need safety and trust. And when we don't have it, we start looking for it elsewhere. Without self trust, we doubt our decisions, we second guess our needs, we abandon ourselves to keep connection. For example, if I'm getting ready to go somewhere and I've put in a lot of thought and effort into my dress and my makeup and my hair, and then I'm constantly asking family members, I'm constantly asking friends, do I look okay? Do I look fine? Does this dress look okay? Does this color look okay? They said it once, they said it twice, they said it the third time. But if I keep asking, what kind of signal am I giving off to other people? Am I someone that is constantly needing reassurance because I'm unable to see it for myself? Like, what kind of impression am I putting off to other people? So, impacts on attachment. This is where I want to spend some time on this. When self love feels unstable, attachment can become anxious or avoided. So, we talked about attachment styles in January, and we basically explored each attachment style in detail on what it is and how to start working toward healing that part of you if that is an area of growth and acknowledgement. So basically, attachment styles are a balance between you being able to trust yourself and you being able to trust the other person. So a secure attachment is a balance of both. But if I am unable to trust myself and I constantly need the other person because I trust them more, then I basically lean more toward an anxious attachment style. And then I'm constantly leeching on to other people for all sorts of, maybe I need emotional support, maybe I need validation, maybe I need reassurance. Like I'm constantly needing things from other people. I'm this like needy leech that cannot survive on its own. So imagine being the other person on the other end and being with someone that constantly needs something from you, constantly needs something from you. It ends up becoming an extremely draining relationship. And what happens eventually? We all know that. This is why this sort of work is so important. So, when self love feels unstable, attachment can become anxious or avoidant. We may over attach in the anxious attachment style, overthink, withdraw, or stay in cycles that don't feel grounded. Not because we're broken, but because we're trying to feel safe. because there's an inability to trust the self. There's an inability to sit with discomfort on your own. You constantly need other people. You just can't be with yourself. And then being in stuck in this sort of mindset, we a lot of times we end up, developing unhealthy obsessions. We start fantasizing things that will never be a part of our realistic life. And this is why this month was dedicated to obsessions and fantasies. So we see things for what they are and start working on those areas if they need, more time and attention and love from us. So, how does the inner critic play a role into this? Without self love, the inner critic gets loud. It says, you're not enough. You need to try hard. You are going to end up losing this individual. You're going to mess this up. And we start performing instead of being, because we're so afraid of losing people and abandonment and rejection that we will do anything. We'll shape shift in any way possible to make sure that, we don't end up being with ourselves, that we must be with another person who can keep giving us the energy that we need in order to survive. Think about that. And how does all of this impact the nervous system? I know that this word self-love has been floating around for some time, and there's so many things around it. But this is why I wanted to create this presentation in particular, that look at all these different aspects and how not having self-love, not being able to trust yourself, and not being able to create safety within can impact so many different areas of your life. Let's look at the nervous system impact. When validation is external, the nervous system stays on alert because we're not safe. We need safety. We cannot be in a state of uncertainty all the time. Think about it like this. Ladies, I say this all the time in all my sessions, and people that know me probably are like, oh my God, we're repeating this for the billionth time, but I'm going to do it anyways. The body is created to survive. So think about it. Our ancestors that had to survive the bad weather, the very vicious animals, their bodies were built to survive. And we have evolved over time, and many things have stayed the same. So whenever the system detects danger, it immediately goes into the survival mode. And the nervous system takes over, and the nervous system works much, much, much faster than the actual logical brain. So the nervous system impact on all of this is when validation is external, the nervous system stays on alert. We feel activated, restless, on edge, dependent on outcomes, that hypervigilance attitude. Self-love creates internal steadiness. Without it, everything feels uncertain. So for example, if I didn't get my eyebrows done, which I need to get done, it's okay. It happens, from time to time. Sometimes I don't have time. I haven't been able to go anywhere, and I haven't been able to, thread them. So they're out of shape, but it happens. I'm a human being, and it happens from time to time. But if I am so dependent on making sure that I'm being liked by everyone, then maybe I will get into some sort of unhealthy obsession with how I look. It's a good thing that we spend time on looking good and we want to feel good, but being obsessed with it is an unhealthy behavior. And this is why I'm saying this, that when we outsource, things that need to stay within, this is where we get into unhealthy behaviors. Self-love creates internal steadiness. The fact that I'm a human being. I didn't get my eyebrows done and they look messy, and it happens. It's just, it's just what it is. And without it, everything feels uncertain. And tying it all to the monthly theme, fantasy and obsession. This month's theme has been fantasy and obsession. Sometimes obsession isn't about the person, it's about the validation they provide. It's about how they make us feel. So we're coming from a neediness perspective. Sometimes fantasy isn't about romance. It's about wanting to feel safe, seen, and chosen. And the reason why I wanted to say this is because imagine being the other person on the other end. Is it fair for them to be with someone who is only there to feel good about themselves? This is why we need to start working on creating these things within so we can create equal partnerships. It's completely okay for us as human beings, because we're tribal creatures, to want connections, to want companionship, but we cannot come from a place of lack and neediness. If I'm unable to sit with myself, then that is my problem, and I need to work on it. How we sabotage ourselves. When we don't feel grounded internally, we may overfocus on someone else, because I'm unable to sit with myself. So it's better for me to just get involved in this limerent behavior and imagine this perfect relationship that will probably never exist in the realistic life. Neglect ourselves, the time that I should be spending on taking care of myself, making sure that, I'm eating healthy, that I'm going on walks, that I'm like learning new things, that I'm taking care of my house, and I'm taking care of my space. I am sitting there in this imaginative world, imagining a life that is probably unattainable in this lifetime. Ignore our needs, lose direction, shrink ourselves, shrink our lives. The self that needs care gets overlooked. Am I eating healthy? I spend so much time fantasizing about a life that probably will never exist that I forgot to make healthy dinner. So now I'm going through the kitchen and I'm finding everything and I'm fixing something that's going to be super unhealthy, and I'm literally sabotaging myself in the long run. So a very gentle reflection that I wanted to put out here is, what does your nervous system do when you don't feel validated? If you're someone that is dependent on external validation, do you chase reassurance? Do you shut down, overthink, or withdraw? What do you do? Just notice. Maybe this is an area of growth and acknowledgement. Maybe this is where the work needs to begin. Maybe this is where you need to start spending some time every day learning new things about this topic and see how you can implement in your life and start cultivating self-love. And why this matters. When self-love is missing, life becomes reactive. Relationships feel unstable. Confidence fluctuates. Identity feels unclear. When it grows, life becomes steadier. Choices feel clearer. You feel more grounded in yourself. And a little bit about me, since many of you don't know me, I know that I've been posting a lot of short reels, and I thought it was time for me to introduce myself so you guys know who I am. My name is Q. Hello, 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 hello. I moved to the US from Pakistan at the age of 16. I'm 36. It's been a couple decades. And I grew up in Michigan in the Tri-City area. I went to high school in Midland, and then I graduated from Michigan State in 2014. Then I moved to Chicago. I've been in Chicago since 2014. I'm Chicago-based. I spent a decade in corporate roles. I worked at Tate Robinson, I worked at Pepsi, and a couple other smaller companies. And then I realized I'm deeply energized by working with people because I'm an extrovert. I'm sure you guys can tell by the way I move my hands, and became drawn to behavioral patterns, emotional growth, and identity work. In 2024, I completed my coaching certification and began creating spaces for women to explore these topics together. And why I created this space. Many people want to work on themselves, but they don't know where to begin. So I created a space where we can learn, reflect, and connect and grow with intention, a place where we can talk about real patterns that shape our lives. And a little bit about the community. I now host an all-women community. It's called Inner Brilliance Collective on a platform named School. Each month has a theme, like February was fantasy and obsessions, and each week was a topic. The first one was limerence, a delusional fantasies, maladaptive daydreaming, dissociation, what it is and how it impacts our lives. And the second one was basically our obsession with love and being chosen. And this third topic was basically being obsessed with romantic relationships. Why does it happen and how to stop? And the last session that is going to take place on Monday during my group coaching is going to be on cultivating self-love, how to bring the validation and the worthiness back to ourselves. What are some of the things that we can do to be more grounded? So we learn, reflect, and connect with purpose. And a very gentle invitation. If this topic resonates, if you would like to explore it more deeply, you're welcome to join us. The link is in the bio. And about everything about the next month's theme and its topics, all of it is posted in the community. And in the closing, I would like to tell you this: self-love isn't loud, it's steady. It's returning to yourself again and again, knowing that, you shouldn't have done this, but did it because I'm human. So I'm coming back to myself, hoping that I'm not going to do it again and I'm going to be more mindful until your own presence starts to feel like home. I hope all of this resonated. I hope you found some value in this presentation, and I'll see you guys very soon. Take care, have a good weekend, and check out my link in the bio. I'll see you guys. Take care.